Hello and welcome to another episode of FTB Sky Factory 2.5. My name is Twin Minds, and this is Mr. Bubbles. I don't know why he's there. I felt like it. Why not? Right behind Mr. Bubbles is a tiny little bit of automation I set up. There's not much to it. It's just a hopper with a hopper and a barrel in between, and the purpose is to create dirt. I need some dirt at some point or another, and I had some storage space with a bunch of leaves I had collected, so figured I would automate that and get those leaves out of the way, and then if I need to I can quickly dump some more stuff in here to get more dirt. It's not exactly a fast process, there is only one of them. I might expand that in the near future, but yeah, it was just a quick method to save some space with like 7 stacks of leaves that I had collected. My base is turning into quite the mess. There's chests all over the dang place. There's no organization to it whatsoever. So I might tackle that a little bit today. I'm not quite sure how yet, but yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But the first thing that I wanted to do was get something started that has a little bit of a cook time to it. It's part of Immersive Engineering. Now, if we look at the book here, Immersive Engineering isn't mentioned anywhere in here that I could find. There's some lofty goals in general that don't really matter, like produce 1 million RF per tick. I can do that through whatever method I want. But you know, there's a section for Thaumcraft here, a section for Botania here, Witchery here, but beyond that, there isn't any mention of immersive, but I like immersive, so I wanted to get into it a little bit. So to get started on that, I need to make a couple things. First things first is the book, which is the Engineer's Manual. That was just a book and a lever, with one of my favoritely named achievements ever, RTFM. Read the friggin' manual. It kind of goes through all the basics. Apparently there's no update news to work with. It goes through all the basics of immersive, quite a bit of flavored text if you're interested. But the next thing I need to make is the hammer, because that is the primary tool for most of immersive. That is just a stick, string, and 2 iron to make the hammer. Now I thought that was going to trigger an achievement, but apparently it didn't. That could potentially be a glitch with the workshop table. Some methods of crafting don't count as a craft method for triggering achievements. Another possibility is it just needs to be picked up again. No. Okay. So I'll trigger that at some point soon here with another craft, because I'm sure I will need another hammer at some point. It typically doesn't use durability when doing certain things, like breaking up an item with the hammer, but you can craft plates with some of the metal using the hammer, and that does do durability. So I'll probably need another hammer eventually. Immersive does generate ores if there were a world to generate ores in. We don't really have much of a world to work with, so there's no ores in here. It does have methods for processing, as you can see here. Craft the hammer with any ore and it just pulverizes it down to a dust. Not very efficient, but it's an option if necessary. There's a lot to immersive here. There's some alloys to work with. There's industrial hemp, which I haven't seen any seeds for yet. I'm curious how I can get those, because I will need those at some point. The next thing I wanted to make is a coke oven. Coke oven is kind of the beginning basic machine that you need, which cooks up a resource called creosote oil by cooking up coal into coal coke, or wood into charcoal, that kind of stuff. And creosote oil is the byproduct of that. Coal coke is actually a slightly more efficient form of coal, if I remember right. It has a slightly longer burn time. So not only are you converting your coal into a better form of fuel, but you're also getting creosote oil out of it. So the coke oven is pretty useful. and the creosote oil is pretty much mandatory. So as you can see, I have already put up the resources I needed to do that. That's actually sandstone, so I had to make some sand and craft that together, and then bricks and clay to the coke oven. Now, the coke oven is a 3x3x3, which is 27 blocks, so this craft lovingly gives you one extra brick. I don't know if that's intentional for making a second one, so that 2 full crafts of this give you just enough for 2 coke ovens. That's possible because it is a very slow tool. It very slowly cooks up what's necessary. Or it could just be to tick off people who are OCD and want that extra brick laying around. Who knows? I do need to build a space for this, though. I haven't really decided where yet, because as you can see, I don't really have all that much space left to work with unless I want to plop it down in the middle here. I will have to come up with something, and I'll probably do that off camera here. It might be basic until I can make something pretty, or I might make something pretty ahead of time here. We'll see what I can come up with, and I'll be back. I have returned, and I was successful in building a space. It might not be much, but it is a start as far as building something visually appealing goes, I believe. I built that thing over there. Now, if any of you are familiar with other YouTubers out there, this is basically a 9x9 cobble, and you all know what that means. But I did decorate it a little bit with some chisel blocks. Chisel is a nifty mod in case you're unfamiliar. You put something in here, and it gives you various decorative alternatives of that same block. So it's very handy for making things pretty, and I think it turned out alright. Now, I did make an identical one on the opposite side here for a couple reasons. First off, I need space to put stuff, and I think that this is going to have to be moved over there because it's in my way and it's ugly and it's not set up well. I mentioned a little bit of OCD. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying I'm OCD, but I do like things to be symmetrical where possible. There is something to be said for asymmetry, but sometimes it's just nice to have symmetry. So that being said, I did make more coke oven blocks so that I can have a second one of these. Again, 2 reasons. First reason being, why not? Second reason being, they are really, really slow. So I would like to have the production be a little bit faster. It's just a standard cube. I do need my hammer, and you just right click on the middle block and it turns into the coke oven. And that little interface there will be covered in a moment here. I'm not terribly sure how many people are familiar with industrial engineering, or immersive engineering, sorry, but it is one of the more common mods out there that I am aware of. So built up a second one there. I've got my pair of these. Now the pair of these doesn't do me any good other than having 2 of them running at the same time. Now in this inventory, plop some coal and it starts cooking down. As I said, it's very, very slow. That orange teardrop looking thing will start to deplete like so. And then on this side will outcome the coal coke, which is the cooked down form of coal. There is legitimate real world practices involving coal into coal coke. I don't know all the details, but I do know that creosote oil is one of the byproducts of that. That's what this tank is for here. Creosote oil, I do believe it is a form of cooked down plant and or other organic matter. Coal typically tends to be an organic matter byproduct of sorts of nature, I guess. Typically a lot of pressure involved, I believe. But once you cook it down, that oil kind of seeps out into a usable material. I have seen some videos of ancient practices of cooking down wood materials in a campfire to collect the oil for glue type purposes and stuff like that. So that's ultimately what this is emulating here. I'm going to get the other one going. Notice the texture has changed to a nifty little fire looking thing. I think it'd be a little bit neater if it was animated, but still neat on its own. Now, let's see, this one is almost done. That's just about done, and there is the cold coke. Burn time 1600 ticks versus 3200 ticks, so actually in this case it is twice as effective, which makes it come out very nice. And 500 millibuckets of creosote oil, so it will take 2 of these to cook down into a full bucket of creosote oil. Now, I didn't technically need to do this. In the bags, the loot bags that I've been getting, has been some creosote oil, and I happen to need 5 for the next thing that I wanted to do. So I've got what I need. I didn't need those ovens, but I wanted those ovens, and I have plans for the creosote oil on top of the stuff that I've managed to collect. So that is why those things are cooking now, and why they're going now versus at a later time, because it just takes for bloody ever to cook this stuff up. I'm going to let those things soak for a while, and I'll get back to them eventually, along with my eventual future plans for that. Now, I think I may put my immersive related stuff in a chest in here, so I don't have to hunt around for it like I have been. Probably should grab that creosote as well. I don't think I have too terribly much else for immersive at the moment. This is a lot of random loot, by the way. Stuff I didn't know exist or would normally never use. Chance cubes, by the way. I may be making use of those in the future, but we'll see. Chance cube scanner. I am curious what that does. I'm not sure I'm ready to start investigating that quite yet. That might involve just plopping one down and praying for the best. We will see. Nope, that looks to be all of my immersive stuff. Just the creosote oil. So that will go back over here for later use. And we will see what nifty stuff I can make out of that later. Now this monstrosity will be moved over into that side there. I don't quite know how I want it set up yet, but one thing I do need is some sort of item conduit of sorts. So either Ender IO item conduit or thermal expansion item ducts. I did investigate both of them, and both of them require the same thing, and that is an alloy smelter. Both of them require a material that comes out of an alloy smelter, so regardless of which item moving method I pick, I do need one of these. So I am just about prepared to make one of those with some of the stuff that I have in my inventory here. And let's get started with a pair of furnaces. Ah, that's right. I used all of my cobble in making those things. I will need more cobble. So furnaces, I do need 2 of those because I already had one. I need a cauldron, quite a bit of iron involved in that. And also a machine chassis, which is iron bars. And I already have a basic capacitor. Normally it would be just some gold nuggets, copper, and redstone, but I have acquired some of these through the loot bags as well, so that was handy. And then the last thing is the alloy smelter. Now this is a machine used to cook up alloys, as it mentions here. It can be used as a basic furnace, like so, but the primary use of it is going to be the alloys. Alloys are a mixture of 2 or 3 materials, and in this case, the material that I want is made from ender pearls. Ender pearl and iron. Now this will very slowly cook up. It's not the fastest thing in the world. I could actually throw in a basic capacitor, which doesn't go in there. Interesting. It might only take the quad or octuple capacitor. I'll have to look into that. I thought the basic would work. But you can put capacitors in here which will increase the effective speed as well. This is pulsating iron, which I actually need in nugget form. And then I need conduit binder. That's 3 of those and 6 of these for item conduits from Ender.io. Item conduits are a nifty piece of work. They move items from one inventory to another, as you would expect from most of these item moving methods, but they fit in the same space as the other conduits. So I can just plop that down there and you'll see that bundle appeared. You can see both of the energy and item are ready to go in that one slot. So it's useful for compacting builds, and they can also be hidden through the use of a cover called the facade in Ender.io, which covers up this entire block and all of those conduit bits and bobs with a block that can look like anything you would like it to look like. So it's handy for hiding your wiring within walls or under the floors, stuff like that. But for right now, I just need something to move items, and that was the easiest one that I am familiar with using, so that's why I made that. I may hide some stuff later. We'll see what comes of that. That is actually the only thing I needed this alloy smelter for at the moment, but that's alright. I will be using it for plenty of things in the future. So let me get all of this stuff torn down, and then I'll move it over there and see about setting all that stuff up. I will return. Alright. In preparation of moving some of this stuff, I have decided I need just a little bit more energy storage. So I'm going to upgrade my leadstone into a hardened. You'll notice that it is full of energy here, 400,000. And over here, it actually is keeping that 400,000 during the upgrade, which is very nice. And then I'm going to plop it down right here and fill it up with the energy that's left in here before I move it. It's not a big deal, but I don't like to waste whenever I can avoid it. And it didn't take much effort to build that up, and I would probably need to do that eventually anyway, so all in all, why the heck not? Just close to done here. Notice I still have some of these left in my inventory from taking that down. I have run out of room to put it anywhere. So that's going to be a thing to consider at some point, because that is full. Very, very full. So, yeah, not quite sure what to do with that yet. I'll just dump it in here in the meantime. But I definitely need to work on storage at some point here, because I have nowhere to put anything anymore for any reason. So that is definitely something to be taken care of. So let me finish taking some of this stuff down. I will shift right click all of these things to get them back, except for obviously this one that can't take that. Now to put it over here, haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do or how, but I think I want to keep the original method of pushing one into the other. And the question then that I have is, do I want that to hide the cables, or do I want to keep them visible? Because I personally don't mind the look of some of the cables, but haven't decided on that yet. So let me set this all up off camera here, and then we'll hopefully get it into a place that looks decent enough. Alright, I have moved the monstrosity. It is still a monstrosity. It is barely any better than it was previously, but it's a thing, and it's over here now. So I have added 2 more solar panels to get a little bit more production going. I have my energy cell right here, which is ever so slowly filling up. I have my generators stuffed in the back here in case I need to make use of them. Got my alloy smelter front and center here because I will probably be making use of it often, as I just did, making some bronze. And I have my same setup here where cobble will be fed into this side, and etc, etc. So this part's the same. I just moved up the wiring, and I have added some cables just to get things going. Now, one thing I wanted to show you quick while it's raining here if you look up,
Nom 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 nom.
hear that? This is rain in the form of food, and I
Nom nom
believe
nom 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 nom.
there's a texture that could go along with this that makes it rain bacon. So ultimately, you just look
Nom
up
nom nom
long
nom
enough,
nom 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 nom.
and it feeds you up. So I found that amusing. I was looking up one time and I heard this noise. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Nom 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 nom.
And it was me eating the rain. So my bar is just about full here.
Nom 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 nom.
And that is close enough. So I was amused by that, so I figured I'd show that off while I was here. I've grabbed a crafting station since there will be a lot of crafting going on in this area, I believe. And so I decided that I do want to use the automatic hammer. Specifically from the one from X Asterisk instead of the X Compressive one. Similar reasons to the reason I chose the automatic sifter back here. This one requires being fed enchanted books, which doesn't seem like an appealing process to me. So this one, while more expensive with significant iron requirements, I do believe I want this one anyway. So I do not have nearly enough iron to do this, so I will be doing the hammering by hand for now until I can get enough. But that will definitely be one of the first things on my list once I get enough iron. But I did finish up cooking the coke oven creosote oil. It did not take nearly as long as I thought it would. And I've got 12 buckets of creosote oil and quite a bit of coal coke. So both of these are done, and I have plenty of creosote oil to work with. Now I'm not going to be able to set this thing up necessarily on camera yet, but I would like to craft the primary component that will get me going. And I'm going to grab a bucket while I'm at it. That's not where my buckets are. That'll do. And I'm just going to grab a bucket of creosote oil, which can be done just by putting that in there, except the part where that doesn't work. Wonder if it doesn't like the fired clay. Regular bucket here. There we go. So regular bucket of creosote oil. And then the second thing that I want to grab, and I'm sure at least someone knows what's going on here, because I already had it up on my NEI, in case someone noticed that. But I will get this crafted up. I am making a reactant dynamo. So let's start by getting that built. It is 2 bronze gears, and the rest is easy. So the reactant dynamo will actually go somewhere up here. I don't know where yet. But ultimately, that's fine. That's not where that needs to go. That'll do. Ultimately, it takes in a liquid fuel. In this case, it will be creosote oil, and then a solid reactant. Now, the solid reactant, there's quite a few liquid fuels to work with, as well as quite a few solid reactants. But I have gunpowder aplenty, which is one of the reactants. Now this will slowly burn through the creosote oil and slowly burn through the gunpowder to make energy. In this case, it is currently filling up my cell at quite a decent pace. I believe it is either 120 or 160 RF per tick. So it's quite a lot of energy, but it will be, it will require me feeding it. In this case, I'll probably end up having to feed it manually for a while until I get some better item and liquid transport, because it's quite the trek to get liquid from all the way over here into there. So either I will need to transport my liquids all the way over here, or I will need to move this dynamo over there and then find a way to transport the energy. Either way, there's going to be transportation involved, and that will be something that I will be doing later in this pack, I'm sure. The most common method of transporting energy is through Tesseract, so you don't have cables running all over the place. But I might end up with cables running all over the place. We'll see. That actually is another product of immersive engineering that will probably be made use very soon here, is cables running everywhere. But that will come a little bit later, because I don't have plans for that right now. But that is the energy production that I have planned for the creosote oil. Now, is that still running? It's hard to tell if it's still running. There it is. So as you saw, another gunpowder got burned up. I had 3, I'm down to 1. The gunpowder, basically it has a timer. It's sort of a hidden timer, but it allows X amount of creosote oil to be cooked up within the time span of whatever one gunpowder produces. I think it's 200,000 ticks or something like that. Sugar is another one, but it only is like 16,000 ticks, so I'd be burning through sugar like crazy. There's plenty of other reactants available as well as fuels available, so I may make use of this in multiple different forms, depending on what liquids I can produce in decent quantities. But at the rate that this thing burns, I may actually be able to get away with running it off of these, and I might be able to run off 2 or 3 of the dynamos. So I'll have to do some calculations on the speed of liquid production and all that to see what I can come up with. But that is a future plan. But for right now, it's got me going a little bit with more power. So that is nice. Now, the last thing that I need to do is get cobble in here. I think I will just stick with my hopper method. Oops, I already had one. And just hopper the cobble in there to get it going for now. I will have some better method of jamming cobble in here. I may even make another cobble gen over here, like I have over there, just to have permanent cobble being fed into here, so I have permanent metal production. So that is feeding in and pulverizing, and the gravel is going up here as per before, and then any of the output sand from the gravel production will go into here for dust sifting as well. Now, these I will still have to feed into here, which I will do with item conduits. That's why I built those. So item conduits will go right back here. That one will go into that space there, like so. And this one will go here. Now I do need to configure them. I'm going to disable this one, because I do not need that one there, pointing into this generator. These ones will need to remove all of the materials in here, and just set that to extract. And I turn off the redstone mode so it's always going. There are other redstone modes if I always want it active, regardless of what redstone I'm throwing in here. In case I do redstone control for other machines, I might want this one to ignore whatever's coming out. But for right now, I just set it to active without redstone. And then this one needs to be set to input, so that all of the materials that go in here will be processed. So everything that comes out of here and here will be fed into here to be compacted down into the materials I need. And that is the basic setup of how this thing works. Some more stuff feed into there, and that will just continue on. Apparently skystone dust doesn't go into there, so I will have to make a separate output for skystone dust, because that does not feed into here. So that's one of the item routing methods I'll have to deal with. But other than that, it's working pretty slick. I am okay with this. Also good to know that this just stops burning when there's no fuel to burn, so it doesn't waste like half a gunpowder, for example. So that is a good thing to know. You see this little solar panel flower I've got going here. I do have plans to expand that, but for right now, it's just the 4. Alright, so with that bit of relocation and automation set up, I will call it a good day. I will see y'all next time.